question is, are you ready?
What do you guys want to talk about?
Let me talk to you.
Throwdown Nation, we are live. It is a Thursday night. We are rolling on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter /X, Facebook, and Twitch. It is episode 103 of the Throwdown with Matt. And today we are throwing down with an Orlando-based pro wrestler, the Rockin Moroccan, Monday night, Malik. How you doing tonight, Mo?
Doing good, Matt. Doing very well. How about yourself?
Man, it has actually been a really good day. You know, we're running a little bit late today. First and most important, did you recover the dog?
I did 100%.
Awesome.
Yeah.
When a dog gets out, man, you know, all things fall by the wayside.
Oh,
you know,
goodness.
they are family.
Yeah, 100%. You know that. You know, you shared you're a dog owner. We have two dogs, my wife and I, and one of them's a Jack Russell Terrier. So I don't even have to say much more than that. She is absolutely insane, and just so happened that she's done this before. Just so happens the door was cracked open, and she just dashed right out the door and went and just never stopped running. So
Gotcha. Yeah, we've got 3 Chihuahua mixes ourselves. We've one of whom is down here in the room with me. My wife calls her my Velcro dog. So anyway,
that's awesome. I'm gonna need to see some pictures later. We our other dog is what we think he is a Jack Russell Chihuahua mix. So I'm curious to see if they look alike.
Well, I'm actually getting her right now.
Oh, perfect.
So there she
my
is.
Goodness.
Yeah, that's Lady. That's Lady.
Hi, Lady.
She's my buddy.
Oh, she's adorable. How old is she?
Well, we don't know exactly. She's a shelter rescue. We think she was around 2 or 3 when we got her, and I've had her for about 5 years, so she's probably around 7 or 8.
Oh, she is adorable. Look at that face. Hi, Lady.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart.
Oh.
But I will say this much though: she's a heel.
Is she?
Yeah. She keeps the other dogs in line.
Oh.
And she rules the roost. And if you don't believe it, just ask her.
Is she the eldest in the pack?
No, actually, my wife's dog is. We think she's around 10.
Okay.
And then my son's dog, and they're all, like I said, they're all Chihuahua mixes. My son's is a Chihuahua Border Collie mix, which is a really interesting blend of breeds. But
that's awesome. Yeah, I'll
have
the door closed here now. I'll have to send you some pictures of my dogs later.
Oh yeah, please do.
Love them so much.
But anyway, for everybody that's watching this live, if you have questions or comments, just throw them in the chat, and we'll either handle them as we go or do a little Q&A at the end. So we'll go ahead and get to the matters at hand here, and start with the first and most obvious question, Mo, and that is, how long have you been wrestling?
Yeah, so I've been wrestling for a pretty short amount of time now. It's been about a year and some change, give or take. I started training in mid-year of 2023.
Mhm.
I guess if you combine my training time, it's a little bit longer than that, but I've been out in the wild probably just about a year.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. So who actually trained you?
Yeah, so I've been trained by here at a House of Champions in Longwood, Florida, by Jamie Stanley and Keikoa, and also Bobby Fish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually a huge Bobby Fish mark. I mean, he is a very talented guy.
He's a good dude too. Yeah, he's so much knowledge that he has, man, and he does a pretty good job at spreading that knowledge down to us. Yeah, awesome guy.
Absolutely. So, recently I had a guest on who actually brought up a topic, and I've actually incorporated this question into my repertoire just because I thought it was really interesting. The guy that brought it that sort of gave me this is actually. He's actually a Ukrainian pro wrestler, but he's currently living in Spain, a guy named Jake Kobe. But so the question that he inspired is, try to sum up your wrestling persona in 5 words.
Oh, that's a great question. 5 words, and it doesn't have to be like a full sentence. It could just be
right. Just 5 words that sort of summarize your wrestling persona.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say quick, charismatic, strong, witty. That's 4. The 5th one would be, I'd say agile or creative. I know it's 6 now.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
So I'm presuming you've been a fan of this stuff, at least to some degree, the majority of your life. Would that be accurate?
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, what is your earliest wrestling related memory?
Yeah, my earliest memory, I was asked this the other day. So I was about 10 years old, in 5th grade, right? That lines up, 5th grade, 10 years old, if my math's right. And I remember these kids talking in class one day that were in class with me about, hey, did you catch the show last night? Like, it was really awesome. What happened? And they were talking about a wrestling show. So I was, up to that point, I've never been introduced to pro wrestling before. And I asked them, I was like, hey, like, what are you guys talking about? And they're like, oh, like it's WWE, it's pro wrestling. Like, it's so awesome. And they're describing it to me. And I'm like, oh, this sounds like something I've never watched before up to that age, right? Like, I've only watched cartoons and stuff like that. So they're like, yeah, like, this is where when it comes on, like, you should watch it next. Like, this is where you would watch it next. So I ended up taking their advice, and I watched SmackDown, and it absolutely just blew my mind. And I was like, how have I never heard about this before? And since then, I've just been a fan of pro wrestling. Yeah, it was circa 2000, early 2000s. So I'm Ruthless Aggression. Grew up in the Ruthless Aggression era. That's my golden era, right? I'm not saying it's the right era. It's my golden era. And yeah, I've been hooked ever since.
Interesting, because I was around the same age when I discovered wrestling. I've been a fan since I was 11, and I'm 55 now. So I've been a fan of this stuff for over 40 years, and I discovered it as an 11-year-old kid, and actually in Florida, and I got started actually watching Florida Championship Wrestling back when Gordon Soley was the commentator way back in the early 80s. And my earliest memory was actually the feud between Dusty Rhodes and Kevin Sullivan.
Awesome.
And you know, I've mentioned to a lot of people on here, you know, when you're 11 years old, Kevin Sullivan was a scary dude. I mean,
I bet. Oh, that's awesome.
but yeah, and you know, um, I've been fortunate, you know, to have had my fandom really span some interesting times. You know, I grew up in the territory days, got to see the Monday Night Wars start to finish as it happened, the rise and fall of ECW, you know, all that great stuff.
That's amazing.
But you know, like I've also told a lot of people though, right now is such an exciting time to be a fan and I'm sure to be a worker, because there are so many places now for guys to work and hone their craft, and there is so much content out there. It's just crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a, you said it yourself. I mean, great time to be a fan, great time to be a worker. There's a lot happening. You know, a lot of people are tuning in to independent wrestling a lot more, which is amazing. A lot of people are having going to their first like independent shows, and they're like, oh my God, there are things outside of WWE and TNA and AEW, like, and it's available locally, right? Like, and it's really awesome to hear. I've had friends that have come out, you know, and watched some of my shows that are not even wrestling fans, and they're immediately just like sucked into it all, like being in the audience and the cheering and the booing. And after, I'm like, hey, like as a fan, like I want to hear your perspective, what you thought outside of just coming out to see me. And, you know, hearing almost the same reaction every time, like I didn't even know this. It's almost like my 10-year-old reaction, right? Like, I didn't know this was a thing. Like, this is amazing. And then, you know, now they're fans.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know, one of the things that really intrigued me when I ran across you on social media, you know, I dig the fact that you are really representing your heritage, you know, as a Moroccan. I just thought that was really neat, because, you know, here in the U.S. we don't hear that much about Morocco. And you know, so like I said, I just thought it was really cool that you're representing your heritage the way that you are, and also incorporating some of the fun of wrestling. You know, the Rockin Moroccan and Monday Night Mo. I just think it's great.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was something that was you know, very important to me, that I knew I wanted to do. Is represent Morocco, and you know, there's a ton of wrestling fans in Morocco, and I don't think the scene is, it's weird. The scene is not big there, but there's a ton of wrestling fans, if that makes sense. But they don't
Right.
really have any independent promotions there. They don't have, you know, any training schools there and stuff like that. And I knew that I wanted to kind of represent my roots in that way, and also because my grand uncle, so my grandma's brother, he wrestled in Morocco back in the 80s. He wrestled in Europe, in Japan and stuff like that. So I knew I wanted to kind of like, you know, represent Morocco and kind of like connect with him in a way, because he absolutely loved wrestling. So yeah, it's very important to me, and I love it. It's really cool to be able to do that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what does your you know, first of all, your wife and your extended family think of all this? What do they think about the fact that you are pursuing greatness in the world of professional wrestling?
Yeah, my wife has been, you know, the biggest supporter since day one. The minute I told her that I wanted to pursue this, and you know, she wasn't a wrestling fan growing up, but it's since we've met, you know, I've kind of introduced her to like these old feuds and old matches and stuff like that. And she's so incredible. She's so open to it, and like now I feel like she's well versed in the ruthless aggression era just by the time we've been married and me showing her stuff. So when I told her that I wanted to, you know, maybe try this out and see like what can come from it, like she was 100% supportive. She said, yeah, like absolutely, this is all you talk about. Like, go do it. And kind of similar with my the rest of my family. So my mom and my dad knew I was, a wrestling fan growing up just by watching it. So they recently have come out to some of my wrestling shows for the very first time, and it was, oh man, it was such a special moment, for them to kind of, I can tell them about it all day, but like to see it in person and them kind of like knowing what it is by being there just meant so much to me. And and I think they really, once they saw it, and they've always been supportive, but once they saw it in person, like, okay, like we get it, we get why you love this so much. And since then, my mom went to Morocco recently, and she was super excited, telling the rest of my family about how she saw some of my shows, and showing them videos and pictures. And now they all started following me on socials, and they're like sending me messages, telling me how proud they are that I'm representing, like Morocco and stuff too. So it's a really big deal. And I think hearing that it just fuels that passion, because it's like, like you're supporting what I love, and it just makes me love this thing so much more. You know what I mean? So it's really nice to have that support behind you.
Absolutely. So away from wrestling, what are some of your other hobbies and interests?
Yeah, I obviously I love working out. I love so me and my wife have motorcycles. We have 2 cruisers, and we just love just jumping on and getting lost every now and then, which is really nice. It's fun. I play the drums as a hobby, like not for a band or anything like that. I picked it up self-taught, and I play every now and then on my own, just jam out. A buddy of mine also plays guitar, so sometimes he'll come over and we'll jam out at the house, which is fun. Play video games every now and then. It's been super busy, so it's hard to slide that in recently, but I try to play when I can, when I have some time. I love just playing casual games that I'm not, obviously super invested in, just with everything happening. So yeah, I try to, when wrestling is not taking up my time, I try to do some of those things, and just kind of those things help me reset my brain and kind of fuel wrestling, right? Because if my mind's not right, then I'm not doing my best in wrestling. But if I'm doing things like with my wife, or doing it for myself, like going for a motorcycle ride, I feel like that helps me stay sane a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So something I didn't have a chance to tell you before we went live. We do something on this called the speed round game. And what that is, I've got a list of 10 names, and periodically I'll stop and I'll say speed round, and I'll name a name, and you just tell me the first things that pop into your head. It's basically just name association. It's just kind of fun.
Okay, cool. That sounds great.
And this particular list of names, they're all connected. So and you'll probably figure out pretty quickly what the connection is. But Jay White.
Great. You just want me to just throw out whatever comes to mind?
When I say Switchblade Jay White, what comes to mind?
Yeah, just goodness, I'm terrible at these games. I'd say just great. Just fantastic. I don't know if you wanted me to dive deeper into.
No. I mean, basically just whatever initially comes to mind.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Just fantastic.
Yeah. So, we're mostly a wrestling related show here, but we do dabble a little bit into pop culture, and I'm always looking for recommendations. So are you by any chance watching or listening to anything cool right now?
Yes, we just finished up, and it can be anything not related to wrestling, right?
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I think so. Severance comes to mind. I don't know if you've heard of that TV show.
You're about the third person that has recommended that show. It sounds really good.
It's so good. They just finished up season 2, and it is it's one of those just mystery, not knowing what's going on, and they tell you little by little every episode, and it's just we've been hooked on it. And now season 2's over, and I'm like, what do we do with all our time? Yeah. But yeah, I'd highly recommend it. They just finished up season 2 off of Apple TV Plus. If you wanted to check it out, it's really good if you're into that kind of genre, that like mystery. I don't want to say sci-fi. It's sci-fi kind of. It's not sci-fi like alien sci-fi. It's just like weird. What's going on? This is crazy sci-fi. If that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely! It sounds right up my alley.
Yeah,
I'll definitely have to give it a try.
Oh yeah.
So, outside of wrestling, what person inspires you the most, and why?
Without a doubt, first person that comes to mind is Kobe Bryant. Hands down, in my opinion, one of the greatest athletes that's to ever do it. But it's obviously like skill. Like he's one of the best to ever play basketball. But his entire mentality, and if you watch some of his interviews and the way that he talks very well. His mentality about how he approaches certain things is just like unlike any other person I've seen. His not only his love for the game, but it's how hard he knows he needs to work, but how hard he wants to work to make it happen. So like he was in the gym every morning, 4 a.m., works out for like a couple hours, and then eventually takes his daughter to work, and he goes to have breakfast, goes back to the gym. And like his routine really, like when you talk about maximizing the 24 hours in a day, like he is the definition of that. And I strive to be like him. You know, I think you hear that a lot, is you have 24 hours in a day and how are you using it? And, you know, we all have different lives and we all work and we're all tired. But I think despite of how tired he was, or how many things he had to do, like outside of basketball, or like take his kids to school, like he's able to do every single one of those things. So like, it just makes you think, like, what excuses do I have? You know, like this guy is living his best life and making it happen. And he is probably tired, but he's doing what he loves. So I just always try to think of that, of like, oh man, I'm so tired, I don't want to go to the gym. Or like, oh man, I have to be up early in the morning tomorrow. Like it's just like, I should take care of my body, and I should, you know, try to get some rest. But if it is something that I have to do for my future, like I should just do it. Right. So those are some of the things why I think he's just one of the best to ever do it. And he was, you know, from what I've read about him and from what I've seen, he seemed like a great human being as well, and the things that he did outside of basketball. So yeah, Kobe Bryant is the GOAT.
Gotcha. So, you know, I know that the goal is to get to the point where wrestling is basically paying the bills completely. And it sounds, you know, based on what I'm seeing and hearing, it sounds like you're on your way to that. But are you still at a point that you have a day job?
Yeah, I definitely still have a day job. I work in client service in the recruiting industry. So I manage different relationships with our clients. I manage different teams and stuff like that. So I've been doing that for, my gosh, probably like about eight years or so. So my goodness, I'm getting old. So about 9 years. And it's great. You know, I love it. I love the people I work with and stuff like that. And it's funny. Some people I work with have come across my wrestling ventures. So that's been interesting to kind of blend both of those worlds. I've always just tried to keep them separate.
Right.
I knew one day it was going to happen. And recently somebody reached out to me and they're like, hey, like, what? How did I not know about this? I'm like, well, I'm not really advertising that at work. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, have any of your coworkers actually come to see you wrestle?
Yeah, one of my coworkers has come, and she's a pretty good friend of mine too. Like we met through work. So when she found out and I told her about it, I was like, you know, you should come out. And she's like, absolutely, give me a date. So I gave her a date, and she came with her husband, and they absolutely loved it. And it was one of those situations to where they weren't wrestling fans before, like they've heard of pro wrestling, but that was their first independent show, and they loved it.
Oh, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great. It was funny. I recently had a guest on here. She is a wrestler, but she is also a 12th grade history teacher. And she was telling me a story where one of her students just randomly happened upon her wrestling videos and was just blown away. So
That's awesome.
I mean, I couldn't imagine being in high school and discovering that your teacher is a pro wrestler. I mean,
Yeah,
that would just be wild.
that would blow my mind as a student. Like my teacher is out here doing this, and you know that kids talk, right? So you know it's like, oh my
yeah.
God, look at
It's all over the school.
yeah,
before.
exactly.
Yeah. But so you're based in Orlando, correct?
Yep.
What is your favorite thing about Orlando, aside from the obvious? I mean, having all the theme parks and all kinds of stuff. But what's your favorite thing about living there?
I love that Orlando is just like you just have. It's going to sound cheesy, but you just have everything in Orlando. You're very centralized to pretty much everything. I love. There's a lot of cultures in Orlando. It's one big melting pot. I love the food here. If you wanted to try, Moroccan food, they have like a Moroccan restaurant. If you wanted to try, if you want to have like Chinese food or Japanese food, there's so many cultures. Like, and I love that. It's all very centralized. Like you don't have to drive, an hour away to go somewhere. Everything is pretty easily accessible. Sometimes there's a little bit of traffic, but I think that's just because Orlando has grown so much.
Right.
But outside of the traffic and the crazy driving, I think culture is really big in Orlando, and there's a lot of different districts that have come up and stuff with really cool restaurants, really cool bars, and big eating halls too, which is really cool. That gives you an opportunity to try like a little bit of everything, not just like one restaurant. So I love food, and I love just being centralized and somewhere that you can share different food from different cultures pretty easily, right? And I know it's not the case. It's not always the case in everywhere.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Speed round.
Oh my gosh.
Finn Balor.
Shredded.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that man's abs are unbelievable.
I don't know how he does it. I think I watched an interview before. He's talked about it. He's like, I only eat, certain fruits and nuts. And he's like, don't eat cereal in the morning. Like, this stuff's garbage. And he takes his diet very serious, and it shows.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, they say that the best wrestling persona is essentially usually yourself turned up to 11. So tell us about in-ring Mo Malik and kind of compare and contrast him with everyday you.
It's a good question. I would say Mo Malik for sure is me cranked up to 1,000. I feel like I'm a people person, right? Like I love having good conversation. But it's interesting because I think that I consider myself like a extroverted introvert, right? I don't know if you've heard that before. Like when I recharge by having time to myself and just being at home and just relaxing. But I also love hanging out with people and chopping it up and having conversations. And I think Mo Malik is that. Mo Malik is the just some of the people I train with call him just a white meat baby face, and it's true. He's very fired up. He's charismatic. He's for the people. He is an underdog, and I feel like that kind of ties into some things within my life, just some things that I've gone through, just being the underdog and maybe being overlooked in specific ways. And Mo Malik represents that, right? He's very hopeful for the people, represents the people. He's an underdog, and he's really just trying to show people that like you can achieve pretty much anything. And he's not a fan of bullies. He hates bullies. hates people that cheat, and he calls it out, but he does it in a way to where it's not just like, I'm gonna get you because you're a cheater kind of thing. Like, he's very witty, and he has this charm to where he'll let you know that you're a bully with, like, I don't want to say making fun of you, but like, that's probably the best way to put it, like making fun of you, like just to make you like question, like, is he making fun of me? Like, is he being a jerk to me right now? But he does it so sometimes subtly and sometimes just like flat out, like, hey dude, you're a jerk. You're a piece of crap, But and I think that's Mo Malik, and that kind of ties in with me just because again, some of the things that I've gone through when I was younger, and he's a beacon of hope, and I think it's just it is really me just cranked up to 1,000.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So tell us about your very first match. What was it like? How did it go? What were your thoughts going into it, thoughts coming out of it? Lay it on us.
Yeah. My very first match was actually in New Jersey at the world famous Monster Factory. So where I train at the House of Champions, we did like a collaboration training session to where we had some of our guys and gals go up to New Jersey and train at Monster Factory. And they're so awesome over there. They like welcomed us with open arms, like treated us as if we were their own. We got a lot of really awesome and talented guys and gals over there. So up to that point, I haven't had a match yet. I've just been training. And Keikoa, who is one of our coaches at the House of Champions, he was up there. So they were like, hey, since you guys are up here for a couple of days, like, you guys want to be a part of our student show after we're done training? And we're like, our coach Keikoa was like, yeah, absolutely. Look to us, like, you guys down? And we're like, yeah, absolutely, we're down. Like, it's an awesome opportunity. So me, the other guys that I've been with, I think, have had matches at that point. And I was probably the only person that I was the only person that hasn't had a match yet. So I was talking to Keiko, and I was like, hey man, like, I know I haven't had a match yet, and no problem. I'm happy to help out with the show, like, as needed. And he's like, oh, no, don't worry about it. You have a match. And I was like, what? He's like, oh no, you have a match on the student show. I was like, oh, great. Sounds good. And, my feelings going to that, I was excited, but I was also nervous because I haven't had a match at that point. And it wasn't a match like, back home or in training even. This was like their student shows or student showcases are open to the public. So there's people there. It's live. Like, and
right.
So the nerves started setting in, the excitement was setting in. And I was like, I had some very basic gear that I got just in case in the event that it happened. And I think it was like some last minute things I bought on like Amazon just to make sure. One of the things that our coaches always said is like, hey, like, wherever you go, just be ready. Just always have your gear. But because I was so new at the time, I didn't have gear that was made yet. So I just bought this like Create a Wrestler generic gear, right? And I'm glad I did. And long story short, I ended up having a match with Nick Batty, which is one of the guys out there. And he was awesome. He had been doing it for a while. And he was just so cool about everything. He knew it was my first match, and we talked through everything, and he was really supportive, and we ended up having a pretty good match. But the whole time and during the match, I was nervous, right? Like, I don't want to mess up. I don't want to drop the ball. They record these shows too, and they have people there, so you're just thinking about all those things of like, don't mess up.
Yeah.
But it went well. It went overall well. We got through the match, and we talked afterwards, and we did the damn thing.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So, and and it says a lot about you and the relationship you have with your coach that he was that confident to basically kind of spring it on you and know that you would rise to the occasion.
Yeah. It meant a lot. It definitely meant a lot, because to me, you always have your doubts. It's like, am I ready? Can I do this? It's like, it's so weird because it's the moment you're always waiting for. And then once you're there, you're like, oh my God. And like, your mind is just flooded with all this, like, can I do this? Even though you can do it. But I appreciated the coaches, Keikoa, and also the Monster Factory coaches for believing in me and their willingness to make that happen for me. That was a moment I'll always remember. So I always joke now with my coaches, like, I had my first match before, like, I had my first match out of state before I had my first match in state, which is crazy. So
That's wild. That's wild.
Yeah.
Monster Factory, that's Danny Cage's group, isn't it? Yeah. Yep. So, we've heard about the first match. Now tell us about your favorite match that you've been a part of.
Ooh, that is good. That is a good question. There's quite a few. One that comes to mind is me and Death Row Jethro at Local Pro Wrestling.
I love that name.
Yeah, it's an awesome name. And he's a pretty scary looking dude. He's like an inmate that comes out in handcuffs with his manager D Wayne, and he takes the handcuffs off. And he's a pretty big dude. So that was a really fun match because it was my Local Pro Wrestling debut. Technically, the month before that, I technically debuted in a 30-man Royal Rumble, which you don't really see that much of on the independent scene. But yeah, it was 30 guys in a Rumble, and I debuted there for the first time. And then the promoter there gave me the opportunity to come back and have a singles match. And Death Row Jethro was my singles match, and he's quite the competitor. He's a big dude, so had to be quick, try to evade him and work that way. I couldn't really pick him up and do any slam based moves just because he's a big guy. So I had to get creative, and working against him was great. He's a hell of a competitor.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Speed round. AJ Styles.
Oh man. Phenomenal would be an understatement. I'm gonna change it and say like overall package. That's probably 2 words, but just everything. I'm just gonna say everything, and then I can dive into that if you want me to. But he's got everything. He's got the look.
Oh yeah.
He's got the speed. He's got the strength. He's got the physique. He's been around for so long. Like he can pick you up and drop you, or he can jump off something, and he can literally make anything out of anything.
Right. And to still be operating at the level that he's operating at his age is just, that's an inspiration in and of itself.
Yeah.
Because he's not a young guy, but he still wrestles like he is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You wouldn't be able to tell. He looks fantastic. He moves great. Like I strive to be like AJ Styles one day, and that's my goodness. He's definitely on that list for me of just greats.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I know everybody has them, but what is your biggest in-ring pet peeve?
Oh man, that is a great question. I don't want to be like this. I don't want to be mean. It's just the first thing that comes to mind. I'm going to say it, and maybe someone has said it before on the show. Is I think hygiene. Hygiene is really big.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard that before?
I have, yeah. People with stinky gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, don't be that guy. Don't be that gal. Wash your gear. I know it's hard. You come home late after a show and it's sitting in your bag, but that's the problem, is that it sits in your bag and it soaks up all that nasty. So there's just nothing worse than, locking up with somebody right away and you're just getting a big whiff of like, oh my goodness, what is that? Whether it's gear or whether, maybe you just got out of work and, you're super sweaty or whatever it may be. But yeah, it's something that hits you pretty quick.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Several years ago, for a number of years, I trained in jiu-jitsu, and there was always one guy who wouldn't wash his gi. And it was just foul. I completely get where you're coming from on that.
Yeah, and those gis, they're thick, right? And they just soak in.
They just soak in all the funk, and yeah.
Yeah, so firsthand that's like it's not fun.
No, not at all. Not at all. So I know that there's really kind of 2.5 ways of preparing for a match. You can either work it out with your opponent in the back, call it in the ring, or kind of do a hybrid of both. Do you have a preference?
Yeah, I like a good hybrid approach. I like being able to have, a couple big things, that maybe we discussed prior to that, but going in, I think there's a great element to that realism where you're just kind of working on the fly. And I think that's just something too that they talk about at the House of Champions. Like that's something that you just develop over time, right? Like if you're still don't have a ton of experience like behind you yet, like it can be really hard to do that early on. But yeah, I think a combination of both is great because I think it just adds to that realism. It adds to just being able to be alert and be present, which is something that I talked about recently. Just being present, smelling the flowers, interacting with the fans, like knowing where you're at. If something happens, like you'd be able to just be quick on your feet and like react to it versus that like, oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. I think it just adds an extra spicy element of being able to kind of react to things on the fly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So if you could only be one, would you rather be great in the ring or great on the mic?
That's a good question. Man, that's tough.
It's not an easy question.
No.
This question in particular, I've asked it on pretty much every episode, and it's been almost a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
Because and there's no wrong answer. That's
Right.
It's all very subjective.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just now in the 5 seconds I was thinking about it, every time I try to say one thing, I'm like, well, no, maybe the other thing. So it's just a constant back and forth. I'm gonna say on the mic. I'm gonna say on the mic because they're both very important, obviously, like goes without saying. But I think that you could be someone who maybe doesn't wrestle very well, right? But could be an amazing on the mic, and that can get you a long way. And I think the other way around, it's also very possible, but I think it's more likely that you'll get further the other way around, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion, right? Always have to say, in my opinion. So yeah, just being on the mic, being witty, being quick. And I think some of that, translates to eventually, because I feel like it's easier to learn too, now that I'm thinking even more about it, it's easier to maybe pick up moves and learn how to be a better wrestler and stuff like that over time. And also, you can also do that with things on the mic. But I feel like being on the mic 9 out of 10 times, you already have a foundation built, right? And then you're kind of learning things along the way. So yeah. That's a very, very good question. I'm still thinking about it as I'm giving my answer.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned that, Monday Night Mo is basically kind of a white meat babyface. Have you worked heel at all?
I have not yet. I have maybe in training, right? But not out in the wild just yet. And every time we do, we have a practice match or something in training, they're like, you're going to work heel. I know it's to challenge me to try to think differently than what I typically do. And it's kind of hard for me to be mean, to be a jerk. So I have to kind of like pull it out of me because you got to think completely different than when you're working babyface. So yeah, it always throws me in for a loop. So I think if tomorrow, I was booked out in the wild to be a heel, I think I could get by, but I would definitely be out of my comfort zone.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Speed round. Kenny Omega.
Oh goodness. He's also one of those. I know I'm not supposed to think about it. Sorry. agile. I'll say agile. There's so many words
Yeah.
in mind.
Yeah, I'm curious. I imagine you have, but have you figured out the connection among the speed round names?
Is it? I mean, it's obviously everyone that's worked outside of WWE, but I know there's a bigger connection than that. You got to tell me.
Bullet Club.
Oh, duh. Yep. I was reading too much into it. No, that's Kenny Omega's awesome, man. I mean, his entire run from start to finish is just inspiring.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and right now, I feel something of a kinship with Kenny because he has just come back from diverticulitis. And about 7 years ago, I got diagnosed with it and ended up at that point having to have the same kind of surgery he did. And to see him come back from that and be back in the ring operating at the level he operates at is just really cool. I mean, I'm just a guy, and with some minor dietary changes and such, I've been fine. 7 years later, knock on wood, everything's good. But I just I've got a soft spot for Kenny, especially after the whole diverticulitis thing. So
absolutely, yeah. To be able to perform at that level is remarkable.
Oh, for sure. So, in terms of your in-ring work and your promos, who or what would you say are some of your influences?
Also a good question. These are all great, Matt.
Well, thank you. I mean,
no, I'd say, and this is, I feel like it's subconsciously. I don't really think about it, but I've noticed it more because my wife has kind of pointed it out to me because she watches every promo that I cut because I love getting her feedback. Even though like now she's kind of well versed in pro wrestling and she's watched enough to like know. I'm always getting her thoughts and feedback and critiques, which is always nice. But anyways, I think from what she's told me, it's definitely The Rock-esque in a way, right? Not like 100%, but just I take elements of that with that, charismatic, snarky, but not being a jerk. That like borderline of like, calling out your opponent and saying something that may humiliate them, but not in like I'm being a jerk to you kind of way, and just like, hey, you're a jerk, so if you're doing that, I'm gonna give it right back. Watch this, and then it's just very quick, sarcastic, stone cold as well. Arguably one of the best on the mic. The man can talk, so I think that just that quick, on your feet, witty, charismatic. Say some things that'll make you question, like, did he just say that? Oh yeah, he did just say that. So I think I definitely pull from those subconsciously, without even really thinking about it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, do you have an all-time favorite match as a fan? A match that you can have watched it a million times and it just never gets old, and there's always some new little something you can pull from it on repeated viewings. You have a match like that?
Yeah, it's hard to say, favorite match of all time. There's just so many good ones, but one that I always gravitate back to is Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Vengeance 2003. Just 10 out of 10 for me. There's so, I mean, there's just so much. There's so much respect to have, for the things that they've kind of done in the ring, and
oh yeah,
I think watching them do what they do and the chemistry that they have, and just the wow factor in that match, like always, like I can study that match a million different ways, and I feel like I learned something every single time I watch it. So that's definitely a match that I always go back to.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was actually on the stream last night. We were talking about Chris Benoit, and I am unapologetically a huge Benoit mark. I mean, and I can separate the man's body of work from how he ended. Terrible human being, but I mean, that does not diminish what he accomplished in the ring. And in terms of his work rate and his in ring, he's one of the best to ever do it. So,
Absolutely, yeah, and you'll hear it a lot from the guys that that were close to him. They'll say very similar things, and I know, depending on the context, right? Like it can, just saying his name can come like it's like this bad word, right? But like
right.
we're talking wrestling and we're talking, like technical wrestling and some of the great things, some of the great matches, like you can't really take that away. Like he's definitely in that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and this is applying to what's going on in wrestling right at this moment. In your opinion, who is the best male wrestler in the world right now?
Oh, best in the world.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious, put me on the spot here, Matt. I'll stick to what's obvious here, and that's Cody Rhodes, right? You want to talk about the underdog story and one of the greatest baby faces to ever do it. Every single thing that this guy does on a week-to-week basis for the last how many years now is nothing short but incredible. I mean, I like the level of detail that goes into what he does is really remarkable, and I just love being able to pause and like call things out if I'm watching it with my wife, right, and just say like he did this, but he didn't have to, but he reacted to this because he was just in the moment and he's present. So there's so much history and so many things that he's gone through, and to see where he's at now in comparison to where he was at 10 15 years ago is incredible. And he talks about the story and finishing the story and kind of getting the championship, and now like we're like beyond that, and like the story is true, like it's very real. It's not a storyline, it's not a gimmick. Like the story, it's a shoot, right? Like from start to finish, and being able to blend the two and really tell that story in a pro wrestling way was just chef's kiss. And even in what he's doing now, he still has the same momentum. It's still climbing only up. All the stuff that's leading up to WrestleMania now. It's just he's just an incredible worker. So
Absolutely. So, same question: who's the best female wrestler right now?
Best female wrestler right now. Ooh, there's so many good ones.
I know.
Goodness gracious. I'm gonna say Rhea Ripley. Rhea has, gone through. She's kind of gone through some repackaging or like rebranding and finding what works for her, what works for pro wrestling. And I think once she found that a few years back, like it just hit with everybody, just clicked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you've seen everything that she's done, since then, and I think it's incredible. Like she's been a heel, but she still gets these crazy pops, right? And that's amazing. But she's just over, and I love the energy that she brings. I love that she's a powerhouse in the ring. And I love, like, before she even does anything, like her presence alone, like just you feel it, whether you're in person or you're watching it on TV, like you feel her presence. And I think that's something that a lot of people that are in pro wrestling that find it really hard to do or to achieve. It's just like, it's what are the kids saying nowadays? Aura. It's like that aura that you're giving off.
Yep.
Has that. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for Rhea. I think she's definitely one of the best to do it right now.
Well, now that they're in the same company, I am dying to see Rhea work a program with Jordan Grace.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
That's going to be a hell of a match.
yeah, those two will tear the house down.
Oh,
I mean,
and I hope it's not just like a one-off match. Like you said, I hope it's a
yeah,
program that they kind of draw out and really
yeah,
build on something.
same here, same here. So who's the best tag team in the world?
Right away, Matt and Jeff Hardy.
Yeah,
I mean, we're talking about people who've been doing it for so long and they're still like killing it. I mean, those guys are the epitome of that.
oh yeah. I mean, that match they had with Fraxium recently was just unbelievable. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, to be able to perform at that level still today, I mean, it blows my mind. Like I dream to still be able to move and like that at that age. You know, they are absolutely crushing it. Their thing, you know, right now, like Matt will post, like the Hardys are forever with the infinity symbol. This is very true. Like, they are going to go on forever.
He's not kidding.
No,
I mean,
not at all.
So, and this can be present day or past. Who would be a dream opponent? Who would you love to have the opportunity to share the ring with?
It'd have to be my GOAT, my greatest of all time. That's Rey Mysterio. He is my favorite of all time. He's part of the reason that kind of drew me into wrestling when I was watching SmackDown at a young age. And again, one of those other guys that are still doing it after years and years and years, especially at the level that he's doing it still, and all the crazy stuff that he's been doing. And man, yeah, he would be an absolute dream match for me. He's obviously my favorite, but I think I gravitated to him at a young age because I was like 4'0" until like sophomore year of high school, and he's a smaller guy, so he was someone that like I looked up to, no pun intended, but I like looked up to, right? Like, cause he was a smaller guy, but he was, you know, he's arguably one of the best to ever do it. And he's the best in my book. So, you know, I would love to be able to share the ring with him. Even today, you know, he still operates at a high level.
Yep.
Yeah.
Speed round. Chris Bay.
Goodness. I know I'm not supposed to think about it. I'm thinking about it. I'm sorry, Matt.
No. I mean,
I'd say resilience.
Yeah, especially with what he's gone through recently, and the fact that he's actually walking again.
Yeah,
you know, whether or not he ever wrestles again doesn't matter at this point. What matters is that he has recovered to the point that he has recovered to. I mean, to be able to function,
yeah,
is a miracle in and of itself. I mean, and man, you know, what a story.
yeah.
Just unreal.
Absolutely. You know, everyone said that he would never step back in again, and you know, he did the opposite of that. And to be resilient through his recovery and all that time and still come back, man, it's yeah, and be able to walk, like it's amazing. And I think that's the definition of resilience, right? Like just staying focused. He could have easily just been like, oh, you know, like people are right, like I'm never going to be able to walk again. And but look at him now. You know, he's doing it. So I nothing but respect for him.
Absolutely. So, what is your favorite move? What is something you just really enjoy doing? And on the flip side of that, is there a move that you won't do or you would at least rather not do? And that can be giving or receiving.
Yes, good question. I love a good enziguri. I just feel like it pops every single time. And I love doing it and just like snapping into it, because as soon as it happens, you immediately hear the oh, you know, like
Yeah.
So I love a good NZ. A move that I wouldn't do. That's a good one. I mean, is it something that I wouldn't do just because I know it'd be impossible for me to do? Like the first thing that comes to mind is like a 450 splash, right? Like I would never attempt that. I would in like a foam pit, absolutely, but
Yeah.
I have. But yeah, to attempt that, there's just it's one of those things to where you have it down or you don't, and I think there's such little room for error. Um, Granted, like there's moves like like a frog splash. Like a frog splash is something that I was like, oh man, like I would love to be able to hit these like nothing, right? And then you get up there like in training and you're like, oh, this is this is up there, right? Like that top rope is no joke. But then like when you're in a match, right? Like and this happened to me a few matches ago. We did a tag team match and we finished with a frog splash. And I don't really hit those very frequently, but I was like, when I'm in the match, I'm gonna hit it. Like there's just no ifs, ands, and buts, and let it be told. I went up there and I looked and same view, like you're just like high up there. You're like, I'm really doing this, but the adrenaline is just like, yeah, go, like just go, and then you just go, right? So maybe never say never. I know that I wouldn't hit a 450 splash, but you never know. Maybe one day I'll be up there and the adrenaline will be kicking. I'll be like, you know what, let's just see what happens, right? But I think that would be a big if for a 450.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard the top rope is higher than you think it is.
Oh yeah. You see it on TV, and even if you're outside of the ring watching an indie show, you're like, oh yeah, like they just jump and blah. But no, you get up there, and it is a long way down.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
So, you're still a pretty young guy, so this may not apply all that much, but I'll ask it anyway. And that is, what hurts right now?
What hurts right now is I'd say my back. My back is hurting, and yeah, it's just your back takes the majority of the impact, obviously, right? Getting bumped around and stuff, but thankfully it's not like chronic. It's not all the time, right? But every now and then it'll start kicking in. I'm in my early 30s, so I feel like that's around the age where you start feeling it, right? And I think I'm starting to feel it a little bit. But thankfully, again, nothing too chronic. I can still do what I need to do. It's not preventing me from doing anything. But every now and then it's like, hey, like my back's talking to me, like you're getting up there, and just reminding you.
Oh yeah. Well, just wait until you get into your 50s. The 50s have been a really strange time. I've thrown my back out sneezing. It's weird. It's just a weird time, man.
I bet. Yeah, I hear that too. Yeah, you're just like, what is happening? Why is this happening? This has never happened before.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, what is the most significant injury that you've suffered either wrestling or training?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully it wasn't anything career ending, but I do remember early on I hurt my lower back pretty bad, and I'm trying to remember what I was doing. It's always like the most silliest thing, like you're like
Right.
ducking a clothesline or like rolling out of the ring and you rolled a certain way. It's always like the silliest thing. Yeah, I hurt my lower back. I don't know what happened, but my lower back just I'm assuming it was a strain, and it just was strained for months in advance. Like it was so bad that I got home from training that night and I tried to get out of my car, and just getting out and like just to turn to get out, like I couldn't do it. It was almost like my body would like freeze up in a shock, and I was like, ooh, this is really bad. And I ended up getting it checked out, and they said it was fine. It was just a strain, and it was just going to take time. But it was I was out of commission for probably like 3 months. I couldn't really do anything, and it was one of those weird things where like every day you're waking up, you're like, how does it feel now? Oh yeah, still bad. And then doing the stretches and making sure that you're doing all the recovery things to get better. And then like it's literally day by day. But I still remember very vividly waking up. And like the first thing I'm thinking about is testing how my back is to see like to rate the scale, because I was just itching, I was still very early on. I was just itching to get back in the ring. And it really sucked that I was, out for like 3 months, but very grateful that it wasn't, like a year or something like that, or, being able to come back at all. So it was definitely I don't want to say a wake up call because that's dramatic, but it was definitely like a, hey, like you need to just be careful kind of thing. You need to take care of your body. You need to stretch. Like you're not, 19 years old anymore to where you can just like get out of the car, go to training and go train. Like you have to stretch your body. Like that is a thing we have to do now.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, have the sense, I guess, to listen to your body.
Yeah. Yes.
Because it's easy to just ignore that and try to just push through and and you'll end up in a worse position if you don't listen.
You're so right about that. It's the for me, the stubbornness or the pride or whatever you want to call it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm fine. I've done it up to this point. Like what, I'm totally good. Why do I need to do this? But like that's not the right mentality to have. It's really, you can't fight Father Time. Like he's gonna win every single time. He's gonna roll you up every single time.
Yep. So, what is your take on the role that social media is playing as a promotional tool in wrestling, specifically indie wrestling?
Yeah, I think we're in a time to where it's a very important and free tool to use as a professional wrestler. I mean, especially early on when you're trying to figure out who you are and what your brand is and what you want people to perceive you as, like that is the first stop that most people, outside of seeing you in person, right? Like, or maybe even second stop, you could argue, like they see you in person, they look up your socials and they see who you are outside of what they just saw for the first, 10 minutes in person. Like that's your entire brand. That's where you have the opportunity to tell people who you are. The content that you put out, the way that you talk, the way you cut your promos, like even, and I know everyone's different about this, but like showing different aspects of maybe your personal life and not everything, right? But just,
Right.
I think people like those things. And I at least with this, sometimes when I put those things out, like I put a lot of wrestling content out, but then I also try to remind myself that, I am a human being and maybe people want to know a little bit more about me. Cause I try to put myself in a situation as a fan, right? If I like somebody and I like their brand, but I'm like, oh, I wonder how this guy or this gal is in real life. Like, are they nice? Are they a jerk? Like, what do they do? Do they have, they have dogs? What are their hobbies? So I think that's important too. And I'm constantly trying to get better at that, of just like incorporating. I've always been kind of the person that kind of kept things to myself. So I don't really like showcase my life a whole lot. But I've been trying to remind myself to do that because I think a lot of people like that. And tying that in with the brand that you're creating as a professional wrestler is so important. It allows the fans, if they didn't 100% connect with you when they saw you in person in a ring, that is like the next thing they're going to do is like, I kind of like this guy, but like, let me look him up even more. And that could be the make or break of why they like you even more based on what you have out there. But if you don't have anything, then it's hard for them to kind of buy into you unless maybe the next time they see you at a show or something like that. At least that's my perspective.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, knowing everything that you know at this point in your life, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
I wish I would have started sooner. I think that's something that I don't think about all the time, but I think about it every now and then, right? Like I'm in my early 30s and I'm grateful to still be able to move and do things that I need to do very safely. And, my body's not hurting all the time and doing everything to take care of my body. But man, if I would have started, 10 years ago, that would have been awesome. That's 10 years of time and experience that you could have, that I could have kind of started this craft and been good at this craft. But, it's not something that I regret or like look back on. I'm like, dang it. But if I did have the opportunity to get started with this 10 years ago, I would definitely, if there's a time machine, I would definitely jump on that right away. There's a lot of guys and gals at where I train at the House of Champions. And they're starting, early on 19, 20, 21 years old. And I love that. That is freaking awesome. We even had some people that started at 15, 16 years old. And I'm like, that's so great. Like if you start at 15, 16 and you're 10 years in, you're 26. Like you have so much more than, like you have so much time.
Yep.
So yeah, I think I that would be one thing I would tell my younger self. It's just like, hey, like, figure out how to do this sooner.
Yeah. So, do you have any pre-show traditions? Any things that you try to do consistently before you walk through the curtain?
I mean, besides the boring stuff, like do a few push-ups, have a resistance band, kind of stretch out the resistance band before I come out there. I don't think I do anything crazy. Depending on the locker room, you know, if my music hits and I'm kind of waiting at the curtain to like come out, I might do a little shimmy or a little dance just to kind of pop the boys like before I get out there. It's not really just for it's for the boys, but it's also just for me too. I think that's my indirect way of kind of shaking off any jitters that I might have. It's kind of just like that moment where you like take a moment and just like laugh at yourself and just kind of dance like very, very funny and awkwardly. And it's like, cool. Now that I did that, let's get out there. And I hit the curtain. I'm just fired up, and there's all this energy. And I think, yeah, I don't know if you consider that a routine or a tradition, but it is a silly thing that I might do depending on the locker room. Now, if it's a show I haven't worked before and I'm debuting there for the first time, I'm not going to dance, you know,
Right.
do a shit. They're gonna be like, "What the hell's wrong with this guy?" But yeah, if it's guys and gals that I know that are back there, and I'm waiting for that 10 seconds before I actually make my way when my music hits, you know, I'm gonna do a little shimmy or a little dance, and then boom, I'm just like getting the character right away.
Got you. Speed round. Tamatonga.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a word?
Yeah, that works. You know, I've actually got a funny Tamatonga story.
Okay.
And this is the most random thing in the world. A few years ago, I was in our local grocery store here in this small town in Metro Atlanta. And I'm walking through the produce area, and there is a lady wearing a Bullet Club shirt. And it was a design I hadn't seen before. And I just commented to her, "Hey, I like the shirt. I haven't seen that one before." And from around the corner walks Tamatonga. I guess that was his wife or girlfriend or whatever. But you know, and I guess he heard me commenting on the shirt, because he comes walking around the corner, and he looks at me and I look at him, and all he does is just extend the two sweet. So we two sweeted right there in produce, and I was so shocked at just such a random thing. We didn't even really talk. I just kind of walked off.
Oh.
I just met Tamatonga in produce and Kroger. I mean, and it's weird because at that point he was still in Japan. So I don't know what in the world he was doing in Metro Atlanta in a Kroger. But yeah, just
my God, that is awesome.
Yeah. So,
I love the casualness of the whole thing too. Like he just walks up to you and just too sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's an awesome story.
So something that we've done in all of these that's just been kind of fun is we've let the current guest pose a question for the next guest. And my previous guest last night, I had 7 members of this faction based in Canada. They actually bill themselves as the largest faction in pro wrestling history. Right now, they've got 56 active members, and they've had a total of 71 members, and they are on a recruiting push to try to get into triple digits, and they are actually working with the Guinness Book of World Records to try to get actually noted in the Guinness Book as the largest faction in pro wrestling history.
Wow.
But really a cool bunch of guys. They call themselves the Moment of Truth. But the question that they posed is, what is your most embarrassing pro wrestling related moment?
Oh, I'm gonna have to think about this. I mean, thankfully, I haven't had anything crazy happen just yet. Now I'm jinxing it. I'm gonna have to knock on all the wood that I have. It's funny. It's nothing crazy, but I'll mention it because it comes to mind. So at the House of Champions, we do these student showcases every month, just as a way to understand how shows work if you probably haven't worked shows before, but it also gives us an opportunity to have reps and a live audience. We have people that come out to the shows and stuff. So when I was finally, chosen or selected to do, to participate in the student show, it was in a battle royal, which is always really fun. I love battle royals. But that was like my debut at the House of Champions student showcase. And I remember being, one of my very first matches, just, the jitters are everywhere, right? You're like, there's a lot happening. Battle royals are chaos. People are just coming at you left and right. You're getting thrown left and right. Like, it's just absolute chaos. Probably a terrible way to debut if you've got a lot of jitters, but that's why we do the shows, right? To get better. So anyways, I remember I think I was tossed into a corner and somebody came and grabbed me. And then there was somebody else that I was just having a strike off with. So I'm like trying to bounce between like two guys. So I go over from one guy in the corner to the other, and I go to throw a super kick, and I immediately just slip. Like, I slipped and just fell on my face. And I was like, what? And I just sat there as I was laying down. And I remember up to this day, my coach and some of the guys would joke about it. Hey, like, you remember when you threw that super kick? Maybe you should throw super kicks anymore. And it's funny because Keikoa, that's one of his moves that he hits as in his moveset. So he's like, yeah, man, this is why not everybody can hit a super kick. So they were just ribbing me about it nonstop. And I've just been telling them, like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I never fell. It was a super drop kick. And they're like, a super drop kick? I'm like, yeah, you never heard of that? They're like, no. And I'm like, yeah, I made it up. And that was the first time I tried it out. And that's exactly what it is. But if you watch the footage back, I went for a super kick. And I think something, my kick pad and my shoe got tangled up. And I slipped and just face planted. And it was the most funniest thing. And it was one of those things of like, do I grab my face? Like, did that hurt? Or wait. I'm like, just get back up. And I think I just got back up and started fighting.
Gotcha. That's awesome.
Yeah. Super drop kick.
So, knowing that this is part of a series, do you have a question that you would like to pose to the next guest? And the question doesn't have to be particular to him, but I can go ahead and tell you the next guest this coming Tuesday, April the 1st at 7 p.m., I've got episode 104 with a California-based wrestler, the Top Shada, Travis Alexander.
Okay.
So, like I said, it doesn't have to be particular to him, but do you have a question you would like to pose?
I don't want to do the typical, if you could tell your younger self, something like that. I want to do something different. Maybe something that you haven't gotten on the show here before. Let's do. Oh, sorry.
Okay. No. What I was going to say is, if you don't have anything, you could always DM me later. But if you've got something, let's hear it.
Yeah, let's do. If you could be any animal in the world, what would you be and why?
How would you answer that?
I would answer that. I'd say a lion. So lion is like the unofficial mascot of Morocco, but also beyond that, I think my favorite movie of all time, Disney movie of all time, is The Lion King. Just love that movie. I can watch it 100 times more, and still hits the same. But I just love what they represent, right? Like all the things, like just their presence, their speed, their strength, their pride, and they're just such a majestic, strong, fierce animal. And I think that's always been my favorite animal. But those are some of the reasons why. Probably more so in The Lion King. It's probably like the subconscious reason why. But yeah.
Scar is such a great heel.
Oh my goodness, he's a perfect heel. Like he's probably the first heel that I witnessed as a kid and didn't even know it. But yeah, he's that guy's jerk.
Yeah, he is. So we're getting toward the end of things now. So do you have any upcoming shows or anything at all that you'd like to give some hype to?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have one of our HOC showcases coming up here. I'm going to be participating in a ladder match, which is a first for me. Never done that before. Triple threat ladder match. And this is one of our ticketed shows. So the House of Champions will do our student showcases where friends and family can come out. But 3 times a year, 3 shows a year, we'll do a ticketed show. And this is our very first one this year. So that is on, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the date. I know it's a couple weeks away, but it is, I'm going to tell you right now, and I should know this top of my head. And I know I'm going to get ribbed for it if my coaches watch this, but it's on April 17th. April 17th, that's coming up. Very excited. Triple threat match with Blanco Loco and Max Danziger. Can't stand that guy. But it should be a good one. And then I also have a debuting at a new local promotion here, Lionheart Wrestling Association, on May 2nd. And they're having a battle royal, speaking of battle royals, to where they're going to have different guys competing, representing Cuba, Guatemala, Chile, Mexico. And they asked me to represent Morocco. And I was like, absolutely, I'll do that. So,
oh, how cool.
Yeah, really excited to do that. So it'll be a nice debut for them, but also like debuting and representing Morocco is really cool for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, as far as what we've got, what we've got coming, like I said, this coming Tuesday, I've got episode 104 at 7 p.m. with Travis Alexander from California, and then next Wednesday, also at 7 p.m., I've got episode 105 with. I'm actually really looking forward to this one. This is a wrestler who goes by the Barker of the Bazaar. His name is Ricka Widley or Wildly, and his gimmick is he's basically a psychotic clown.
Oh wow!
And he's going to come on in character. So I'm definitely looking forward to this one. I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome, man. I definitely got to tune in for that one. And listen to that. That's gonna be great.
Absolutely. Well, I've got to thank you for your time, man. This has been just an absolute blast. Nerding out about this stuff with like-minded people is just the best thing in the world. I mean, it really is.
I agree. And likewise, Matt, I mean, thank you so much for your time and reaching out to me and making this happen. This was really awesome to just connect with you and get to share a little bit more about me, but also got to know a little bit about you too. I know now that you have 2 dogs. I saw one of them, Lady. She's adorable.
Yeah,
and
we've got three actually.
Oh, three. That's right.
Yeah,
3 dogs.
Yep.
So I'll have to send you pictures of my dogs. So
oh, please do.
That way you see what they look like, and you can yell at the one that decided that she wanted to dash out the door. Yeah, not fun. I'm still gonna yell at her after, but then I'll give her some treats, so it balances out.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But for those of you that have been watching this live, thank you. For those of you that'll be seeing this on replays and clips on the web and such, thank you for that. If you like what we've got going here, do the old like, comment, share, and subscribe. And before we wrap this up, do you have any final words for the audience?
No, I don't think so. Just thanks again, Matt, for the opportunity to jump on here with you and talk shop. It was a pleasure, and hope to continue. See you putting all this stuff out and all the episodes. I'll definitely be tuning in to your guests, and keep doing what you do, man. This is really awesome, and it was really great to be a part of it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And like I said, I'll be back next Tuesday with Travis Alexander. And in the meantime, everybody be good to each other, love each other, and have a great weekend. And let's keep